Okay, for this project, what you're going to need is some Finite screwdrivers. You can get this pack at Radio Shack for around $10. That comes with all the tips and detachable heads. You can also get these just individual screwdrivers at Walmart. And these with the detachable heads, you got to be careful not to lose the heads. They just come in the case like that. Those I just have in my regular toolkit. You're also going to need some needle nose pliers and some Q-tips for wiping down various things and getting rid of dust. You're also going to need some heat sink paste. Keep it in a plastic bag, so just in case it leaks, it doesn't go all over my toolkit, which I keep it in there regularly. And it came from Radio Shack for around I think it was $4 that I paid for it. So it's not that expensive. I've used it, gosh, for almost a year now. I don't really see any expiration date for it. Just make sure you massage the tube so it doesn't get solid, because it will eventually turn to solid or turn to oil depending on what type you get. This is the white paste type. So the computer we're working on is the Gateway Series M1634U. Has the HD graphics card. It's the AMD Athlon dual-core processor, ATI Radeon X1200 graphics card. That's on 128 megabytes. So this is basically how we start. We're just flip over the laptop so it's on its back. And where you're going to notice is different panels. You're going to notice this panel, that panel, also the battery box. We're not going to mess with the battery box on this one. So basically, what you're going to do is detach that plate after you unscrew the screws. This plate you're not going to bother with because the hard drive's right under it. You're going to use the Finite tip Phillips screwdriver, and you're going to unscrew this screw right here, which is really the only screw that's holding it in. I can pretty much unscrew it with one hand because of the way my screwdriver is made. It has this little turning mechanism on the end, so you can use it with one hand if you want to. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pry up after you unscrew the screw all the way, because they do have little washers in them. You're going to pry up on the case and just pop it right off. So there's the case. You have to be sure not to pull up really hard, because you see those little tabs right there on the top of it. You got to make sure not to break those. If you break those, you're pretty much going to have to get a new plate for the back. So here's the internal mechanism. Here's the processor chip with a heat sink on it. The heat sink runs all the way around to the fan, and that's basically how you get heat sink cooling. Underneath the fan is the video card. We're going to have to take off this whole component, including the fan, in order to get to the video card. Which video card is what causing us the most trouble. It's just overheating because we play, high graphic games, and it's not too cool in here. So basically, what you're going to do is unscrew all of these miniature screws, and be sure not to lose them. And you're also going to take off the power cord that's hooked to the motherboard, that's run off the fan that supplies power to the fan to cool down the heatsink. So this is after we have taken off that whole unit. It comes off in one piece. As you can see, there's like a lot of heatsink paste and heatsink pads from where the manufacturer has put that in there, and this heatsink pad is actually damaged. It would be a perfect square. Where it got too hot or too much pressure, There's, you can see like a full heatsink pad up there, but this one is damaged, and it's going to have to be either repaired or just taken off and replaced with something that can absorb heat and transfer heat better. See, it just flakes off. So basically we're just going to have to clean off these with a Q-tip. That's what the Q-tips are for. And then you're going to use a screwdriver to scrape off anything that's crusted on there, which I'll use a flathead screwdriver for that. Be real careful not to scrape the chip, or you can use a razor blade. It works better. Okay, this is after we clean off the chip. You can see it's like really shiny now, not too much debris after. That's the graphics card after I clean it off. Also, I have cleaned off excuse me, cleaned off the fan on the back side, and also cleaned off the heat sink from the debris as well. As you notice in the middle, you're going to see that like heat sink color. It's where they use Quicksilver, the manufacturer did. It's another form of heat sink compound. Where that has chipped off, it has gotten so hot. You can chip that all the way off. I don't recommend it. I mean, it's still intact somewhat, so just put paste on there and then just rub it down smooth and put a little dab on there, and then you're going to put apply kind of heavy on those two chips. You can brush that off a little bit with canned air, or you can use a Q-tip if you want. Notice this tape going down through here. That sometimes gets unstuck. You can just push it back down. But what we're going to have to do is unscrew all of these screws that are around this, little teeny tiny ones. Make sure not to lose those. And then make sure to carefully peel this off with that back after you take off the screws. It should come off in one piece. So if you notice, yeah, this peels right up right there. So after we take that off, we're going to have to clean the fan and various other things in there. So this is after we've taken it off, and you can see it did come off one piece. Around the edge you're going to see a lot of dirt, and right here, getting closer, is some hair. And that's the most common thing that is clogging up your fans, is hair and natural born air debris. And in between these blades you're going to need to clean. Also, you need to put some oil on the center of the fan right there so it runs smoothly. You can get gear oil at a hardware store or Radio Shack. It depends on what kind of Radio Shack you can get. But we can take this whole unit off right here and just blow it out with canned air. And clean off the heatsink bar. Make sure there's no dust on there, because if it gets so hot, it can cause fire or burning. Also, going to make sure that this is cleaned off around here, and we're just going to reapply heatsink paste to it and to there as well. So 3 points of contact where you're going to apply the paste. Make sure it does not get on the motherboard. Okay. So this is after we applied the heatsink paste. I kind of applied it heavy on those. It is going to cause excess, but that's really what I want to do with this. And what I have done, there's two things. You'll see a heatsink pad up here. I just chipped off, shaved off a little edge right there, because that's going to flatten out when I screw it back in on top of there. But I'm taking this heatsink pad, I'm going to divide it up and kind of mold it into one. Make sure not to touch it with your fingers, because it is kind of toxic. But I'm going to put it on top of the graphics card, so that would repair the heatsink pad. So that's after we got everything together. And what the needle nose pliers is for, I do have a tendency to drop screws and things like that. I don't want to use a magnetic screwdriver, because if you get magnetic devices or a screwdriver near certain components in your laptop, it can damage them, such as the hard drive. So I use that to pick up screws, and you can place the screws in the holes with that, and along with using your screwdriver while you're holding a screw, you won't be able to drop it that much. Also, if you drop it down in there accidentally by using your fingers, you can pluck it out with the needle nose pliers. So we just reassemble everything and it's back in the computer. And make sure to plug in your fan cord for power. And that is it. Just put the back on and you're done.